Space of the Spanish Embassy, which we dedicate to cultural and scientific activities. Mr. Van Hekut, thank you for your presence here today, and thanks Brussels Capital Region Minister, Mrs. Elke van der Brand. I'm very eager to listen to the ideas and plans regarding clean urban mobility. The purpose of this seminar is to bring innovators and public officials together to share good practices and useful experiences. In Spain, like in Belgium, this institutional effort is shared between the national government, the 17th autonomous community, and also local governments. In this regard, I'm also very honored to greet Mrs. Marta Marin, head of the Basque Government Office here in Brussels, who is following us online. Buenos días, Marta. Mr. Omar, CEO of Avesta Battery and Energy Engineering, we are very happy to have you here, and we truly appreciate your partnership with Ikerland. Allow me as well a special welcome for those who are joining us from Spain and other countries, particularly Igor Villarreal from Ikerland. Buenos días, egunon, eskerrik asko. This webinar is a practical exercise of the science, technology, and innovation diplomacy efforts of Spain and Belgium, which we bring to you in collaboration with the Spanish Office for Science and Technology and the Spanish Official Chamber of Commerce in Belgium and Luxembourg, through a special online edition of our public diplomacy cycle called Los Mediodías de la Embajada. Yes, diplomatic missions must also play their part in partnership with local authorities and institutions and with other members of the international community. To mention another example, yesterday we launched the project We Are Nature, a war against climate change, butterfly effect, and experience in activism and cultural diplomacy for the climate. It is an innovative multimedia digital project for the climate involving over 40 artists and experts from Belgium, Spain, and third countries. For this, the Embassy and Spain's Agency for International Development and Cooperation joined forces with activists and with DG Climate of the European Commission, the United Nations Office, and the City of Brussels. As Clara de la Torre, Deputy Director General at the DG Climate, pointed out, you don't need to be a scientist or an expert. Any motivated citizen can contribute. We can all play our part. We are committed to the urgency of addressing sustainable development as the 2030 Agenda underlines in Goal 13. Indeed, a fundamental driving force behind these efforts is the entrepreneurship and the technological clean urban mobility solutions by the companies present here today. I do want to listen to you and better know how this Belgian-Spanish alliance has become a key reference model in the field of clean energy for our cities. The present pandemic challenge has made climate change more relevant than ever. Muchas gracias, un grand merci à tous. Dank u wel. Thank you very much, dear friends, for tuning in and enjoy this webinar.
Now, Mr. Michael van Eekhout, who is a mobility advisor to the Brussels Minister, Elke van der Brand. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Buenos dias. It's, I think, the only few Spanish words I know. I'm very sorry not to speak your native language, so I will do it in English. I would like to thank very warmly the Spanish Embassy and the Chamber of Commerce for inviting Elke van der Brand, Brussels Minister for Mobility and Public Works. As you can see, she cannot be here today, so I have the honor to speak in her name. We prepared this together, so consider she's virtually in the room here next to me, so I will try to bring her words and vision as good as possible. So we are here to speak about new urban mobility, which brings technology and mobility together. We think that technology and mobility starts always with a clear vision. And that's what I would like to explain you today is what is the vision of the Brussels capital region in this regard. A strong vision is the ground layer of everything in politics. And in Brussels, we took 2 years to speak with a lot of stakeholders, with a lot of citizens to build up this vision. What do we want to realize? Where do we want to go in Brussels when it comes to mobility, when it comes to the future of our city? We have been awarded a SUMP award by the European Commission, which stands for Sustainable Urban Mobility Planning Award this year. So the Commission acknowledges the efforts that the Brussels region makes to involve as many people as possible and to make them as progressive mobility plan as possible. So we are very proud of this award, and we would like to thank the European Commission for this acknowledgement again. What is that vision? It's very simple. Like every vision, you should summarize it in few words. In Brussels, it's improving the quality of life. So that seems to be very, very huge, but in fact, it's very simple. And we will try to enhance and make the quality of life better from a mobility perspective. So I speak for the Minister of Mobility and Public Works. So this is what we have in hands to better the city. What does that mean, improving quality of life? That's reducing car pressure. Too much cars in Brussels. We want to achieve minus 34% by 2030. We want to reduce the street parking pressure. A lot of cars are being parked just on the street. We want to activate modal shifts, walking, cycling, and also everything regarding to mobility as a service that we probably know as MaaS. We want to improve air quality, and finally, we want to reduce noise. So we have one very powerful tool to achieve this, and probably if you the Spanish here will probably know this technique is we will apply the super blocks techniques that you apply in Barcelona. For those who are not familiar with the super blocks, you just take a piece of your city, you make it a block, a neighborhood, and you ban every transit traffic through that block. You report the transit traffic on main roads at the border of the blocks. So we divided Brussels in almost 50 super blocks, and we want to realize 5 of them each year. So that means a circulation plan in 5 super blocks per year until 2030. So back to the vision. The question is, for who are we doing this? It's very important, we as public authority, to keep in mind that we are doing this for the citizens. We are not doing it for ourselves. We are doing it just for the citizens, for people who live here, who work here, who visit our city, who would like to stay here 2 hours, 2 days, 2 years, or a whole life. We do it for them. It's for the citizens that we do it. The second point is, okay, we want to improve the quality of life. you need something very important in this, and that's infrastructure. You can have all the technology that you want. If you don't have proper infrastructure that people can use to go from A to B, it will not work. So you need a proper ground layer, good infrastructure to go from A to B. That can be cycle lanes, but also footpaths, a good public transport network. And nowadays we have also a lot of alternatives with mobility as a service. You see free floating steps, free floating electric bikes, and so on. And Brussels is a paradise when it comes to alternatives to individual cars. So we do it for citizens. We need a ground layer, proper infrastructure, and this is where it becomes interesting for you. We need technology. We need technology because we see it as a multiplication factor for good infrastructure. In mobility, we say, build it and they will come. Build good infrastructure and people will use it. That's true. You see it everywhere. When you build a new highway, people will use it. And in a few moments, the highway will be stuck by traffic jams. So because it's just victim of its success. It works for everything. It works for pedestrians, it works for cyclists. So if you apply that, build it and they will come. If you add a tech layer on it, the technological layer on it, you can inform and activate even more people. And that's where it becomes interesting for us, because we want a huge modal shift, passing from the individual car to everything else. So to do that shift, people have to be informed about what's possible. Sometimes we notice that people do not really know what are the alternatives to their own car. Do you know, you who are watching, what are the tram or bus stations nearby? Do you know what are the free-floating bikes? Do you know what free-floating bikes are? Maybe we just don't know. So it's our role to bring this knowledge to the people so that they can use it, discover it. And that's a big role that we see for technology. What's in it for the business? I know that there are many business people watching this webinar. And what's in it for you here in Brussels? What we want to create is a trusted relationship with you. We want to create a so-called level playing field where you, as an economical actor, you can try, you can deploy your business, you can try new business models. You have here an environment, a legal environment, a political environment that will help you to try. Give it a try, and why not expand your business with, why not, Brussels as a test city? We see that many global operators see Brussels as one of the test cities. We are very proud to be a test field for those actors. So keep in mind, we try here in Brussels to create a win-win-win situation. Win for the citizens, win for the government, because we don't have always the right means to realize everything that we want to do. So we need you. And it has to be a win situation for the private sector. How do we realize that level playing field? We are working quite hard now to realize, we would call it a future-proof legal framework. And we work in close cooperation with ITF, International Transport Forum, in the frame of a project of DG Move of the European Commission. The output at the end will be a framework, a legal framework that will be future-proof, strong, based on experience on the field, experience by the business, experience by the users, to be a welcoming framework for mobility as a service. We believe it's not, the choice has not been made yet, but we believe that we need an open ecosystem for mobility as a service. What does that mean? We need some bricks to build a coherent mass application. It's not our role as a public authority to reinvent the wheel, to put billions in development for IT. No, we believe that there are IT there on the market that we can use and that we can put together to build and to offer a proper, effective solutions, again, for the citizens. That is what we are doing it for. How do we want to realize the modal shift? We want a wow experience. This wow experience that we all have had in our life when it comes to the first time you ski, the first times you have a good Spanish wine or something like that. Say, wow, this is excellent. Well, we want a strong wow mobility experience here in Brussels. It starts again with good infrastructure. So if you cycle here, if you take the tram here, you see that it's improving. When you compare with 5 years ago, we are now miles ahead and it's not finished yet. So really it's improving because we have infrastructure. Imagine if you could add technological, this is a difficult word, tech layers on this proper good infrastructure. What does that mean? If you could, for a route planner, if you could add the waiting times at red lights at crossings, a route planner could take that into account and show you the fastest way. In Brussels, we have, or in Belgium, we have these road signs that allow you to turn to the right even when the light is red. You have that in some other cities as well. We try to put them everywhere where it's possible here in Brussels. We're getting also to road safety, of course. Imagine a route planner that takes that into account. Say, if you pass that way, you don't have to wait at the red light. Because one of the main criteria that we use to make the choose of our cycling route is the time. The fastest route is often the one that we choose. So if we can take all these elements into account, we are nudging people, we are helping people, we are taking them by the hand and say, this is maybe the right way to go from A to B, because again, we do it for citizens. Then the fun starts, is this integration of all these databases. There are probably ITers here in the room. We all know that what's thinkable is not always possible. You think, oh, there is a big green button with an easy solution and we can integrate everything. We all know that it's not true. So we need data standards. We need open APIs to put these data sets together. We are building at this moment a data lake to put all these layers. And last but not least, it's important to have a proper data analysis. What do we want to know? How to deal with all this data? At the end, it's big data, and you might lose your way if you do not know how to analyze them properly. My last question today is, what is the role that we see for us as a public authority? Honestly, we are not going to compete with GAFA. With Google, Apple, okay, that's not a role. We don't have the means. We are way behind their development. We are not proposing tomorrow the new Google Maps, no. But we are the local specialists. We have a really refined knowledge of our streets, of our cities, or the way people are moving from A to B. Of course, GAFA have a lot of information, but we have some more detailed information that can make these advices and mobility policies more accurate. So this is where our role is, where we have a role to play, is to have an added value in comparison with what exists already. So as a conclusion, I would like you to take 3 words with you at the end of this small speech. Start with a strong vision. Don't forget your proper good infrastructure. Without infrastructure, it would not work. And use technology to enhance, to promote the use of this infrastructure. That was it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Heijkoop. I'm going to ask you to sit down here with us. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Beatrice Greers, and I'm going to be the moderator today. I'm going to welcome again to this webinar. You know, we've been talking about the European Green Deal, fighting climate change for a long time already, and transport and mobility is key to achieve those goals that we have in mind: climate neutrality, decarbonization. Today, we're going to be talking about the role of business in doing so, and especially on cooperation between business. And we're going to be talking about a case between a Spanish company and a Belgian company and how they are collaborating to boost innovation to improve the quality of materials and to improve the quality of batteries, which are key, especially in the electrification process, which is one of the elements of this decarbonization of these clean mobility we've been talking about this morning. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to jump straight away into the panelist speeches, and I'm going to introduce our first speaker today here in person. We have Dr. Nashin Omar, who is the CEO of Beste Battery and Energy Engineering. He's a professor and is the managing director of AV and has 16 years of experience in research and development projects. He obtained his PhD degree in electromechanical engineering science from the Vrije University of Brussels in the field of Lithium batteries for automotive applications. And since 2012 until March 2019, he was the director of the Battery Innovation Center at the VUB, where he was leading a team of 30 researchers in the field of energy storage. Over the last 10 years, he has been active in various national and European projects. Please, Mr. Omar, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thanks for the invitation. And indeed, just maybe to take some words from the previous speaker, everything is about the science and everything is about the technology, because there's a basis how to improve things. And actually, that is also what here is about. So I am CEO of Beste Battery Energy Engineering. I will just give a couple of slides what we are doing, what we mean for the industry or for the authorities, but also actually why we are specifically working with Ikerlan. Why from this big Spanish country, we selected only Ikerlan as a key strategic partner. First of all, let's go. It seems, hopefully it's, no. They can see it. Can. Yeah. Anyway, so Beste Battery Energy Engineering is an. I will maybe come to there just to make things easier.
Our audience to ask some questions if you have some in the Q&A section. Okay, let's
company which is located in Brussels region, which actually has been created 2 years ago by myself, which is accounting already more than 26 employees, and the expectations are by end of next year we will across the level of 100 employees due to the big move. We are located, as you can see, on the Solvay campus. So it's a big campus where all the companies, and particularly R&D and technological companies, are gathered, where our activities are at this moment. So what is our strategy? Our strategy is based on collaboration. Again, we can do everything, many things, but not everything, of course. So collaboration for us is a key. Innovate, because we have to innovate in order to come up with competitive solutions to create around the IP, which is in turn, and then to bring this IP to the third parties, to authorities, to industry, etc. That is a typical business model of an engineering company, which we implemented for the first time in the Belgium context. That's something to mention. What we are doing, we are working mainly, as has been mentioned, in mobility, and mobility, of course, e-mobility is part of that. And from this e-mobility, battery is a key component. Without battery, we cannot drive. Without battery, we cannot move. And that's something very important, like your cell phone. However, we know all the classical lithium-ion batteries that we are using right now in our cars, in our cell phones, etc. But that is not all. The coming 5 to 10 years, we are going to face the future of battery technologies, which we call it generation 3 and generation 4. What does it mean? Higher energy density and the same volume higher performances, higher safety, etc. And that's what actually we are doing at EBE, where we are working on the technologies of the future and not the technology which are existing right now. Some of our expertises is about development and prototyping to the industry to check the maturity of the technology before it goes into industrialization, and particularly for all solid state technology, which I meant is generation 4, where we don't have liquid electrolyte in our batteries, which are the main source of becoming unsafe, but solid electrolyte, which can be ceramics or sulfides. We also develop full battery systems. That is actually what you have finally in your cars. We also look for advanced thermal solutions. Now, these days in Brussels, it's cold. It's not the ideal temperature for a battery. So it should be heat up to a temperature which is close to 20, 25 degrees. And the summer in Spain, it can be easily 45, 50 degrees. That's also not good for a battery. It should cool down. We need actually continuous heating and cooling in order to bring the battery in the best performances where you can guarantee the safety as well. A lot of modeling we do from materials to system, and prototyping and artificial intelligence. These days, we cannot have a battery in a vehicle and just to drive that. We should to monitor the behavior of the battery every moment, every second, at every place in order to avoid problems. In case that there will be problem, that you can take it out from the fleet and you do the proper maintenance for that. And of course, last but not least, we have to close the loop. At a certain moment, battery will also age and they will come to an end of life and they have to be recycled, or something has to be done with the battery. We cannot dump them in the desert, we cannot dump them somewhere, so they should be recycled. And that's what we see, actually a circular economy where we have to close the loop. And that's actually what we are doing as a company to support the industry, to support our customer, but also to support, let's say, authorities, which also European Commission part of that. Some of our infrastructure here in Brussels, we are developing the technologies of the future for the anode part, which is lithium metal. And that is the first unique infrastructure that is existing actually in Europe. There is no second example of that in Europe. Many people, even from the Brussels region, they don't know that. Dry rooms, pilot line to manufacture such type of technology, not in mass production, but at least in small series to show that is possible before it will go in big mass production. And you see here a couple of examples of battery technologies that we do. It can be small for material supplies like Solvay, Imico that we have in Belgium, but also large cells for commercial applications. Further technologies or facilities that we have, a lot of analytical techniques, because if you deal with materials, you need such type of analytical techniques, and that is quite a very unique platform where all these techniques are available on the same site to do the research development. I mentioned a battery at such a moment, and battery has, let's say, a positive side, but it has also a negative side. These days, all of our batteries, which we have it in our cell phones, unfortunately are using cobalt. Cobalt are mined mainly from Africa, Congo, for 65%. And it is what it is, but it still is happening by children below 12 years. And there are around 50,000 children which are doing this work for us to get this cobalt ready for us, for our application. And that is the dark side of the battery things, which we call it actually battery mining. In order to do that, we have to close the loop. And we know from European Commission that cobalt is in critical material, for instance, but also lithium is in critical material. So we have two main components in our batteries, which we have to care about that. So it's not only using that dumping, it's not possible. We have by the end to close the loop, and we have to recycle that so that we can can make use of lithium and cobalt in the future batteries that will be produced. Or the batteries can be given a second hand, as we have it cars, new car, second-hand car, third-hand car. We can have it the same with batteries, where we can use it for home storage or for station applications, for another type of applications where they are still okay, but maybe not okay for automotive anymore. But that's also what we are doing. Of course, we are also commercializing battery systems. Maybe not many people know that, but we do that. And we do that in a partnership with a Turkish company, which is called Imikar in Antalya, where hands in hands, we do this aspect. We bring the appropriate technology to the end users, which is meeting the application requirement. And that is a perfect example how we see the partnership. Combining forces, combining expertise, combining effort in order to make things happening. And I think that maybe two smaller companies like EB and Imica, they join forces, but the outcome is huge. 0.5 gigawatt hour battery pack production. That is something let's say, very high. Now, why did we select it specifically Ikelan from the Big Spain? The Big Spain is a lot of expertises, a lot of competences, a lot of possibilities. Ikelan from nature has different types of activities which are very close to our daily activities. Batteries, artificial intelligence, charging for infrastructure, and hydrogen as such as well, and all artificial intelligence techniques. So with Ikelan, we found common ground to join the forces to actually fill in the remaining gaps that we had and to cover the market needs, and specifically for automotive, but also for station applications and more specific for renewable. But more and more, we are getting also requests for more. It's not just only roads application or renewable, but we have something also what is called marine. We have the port of Brussels as well. And there are also many ports in Spain as well. So marine is becoming very hot topic in the research field as the railway. So for all these aspects which the market was asking, it was huge. We have two hands. There are 24 hours in day and night. We couldn't do everything. So our strategy is doing that in partnership. And from Spain, Ikelan was a very specific, important partner for us, where we offer the full solution to our customer. And also by combining our infrastructure with their infrastructure, we can cover almost 100% of the needs of our customer, not only in Europe, but also in Asia and other places in the world. Just for your information, EB has also a daughter company, which is called EB Middle East in Saudi Arabia. And this joint collaboration is going to be also useful there as well. Thank you very much. That was short talk, what we are doing, why we selected Ikelan, but I think that's a good example how a successful collaboration could be and would be. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omar, for your presentation. It was very interesting indeed to hear about the need to join forces with other companies to be able to be present in other markets and to fulfill the needs of the customers. We will be talking a lot about that in a minute, but I am going to give the floor now to the other side of the partnership. That's Dr. Igor Villarreal Sarriá. He is Energy Storage and Management Head of Department at Ikelan. He received his PhD in electrochemistry in 2001 from the University Complutense of Madrid. He joined Ikerlan in 2001 and spent 2 years in Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory working in solid oxide fuel cells technology. And since 2010, he is the team manager of Energy Storage System Group. And since 2015, the main responsible of energy storage and management research area at Ikerlan. He has directed several PhD students and has many publications on electrochemistry. And he's also in charge of many industrial projects related to batteries and electromobility and renewals. Igor is joining us from Spain virtually. So please, Igor, you have the floor. Thank you for being with us here today.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. I was not able to hear you, so sorry. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Hi, Nashin. So I'm sorry not to be there, but as you know, nowadays it's a little bit complicated, no? And thank you also for giving us this opportunity to show us our relationship. For us, also a very important relationship with ABE. So I have also a short presentation about what is Ikerlan and why for us is very important this relationship. So I will share it, okay? Just a second, I am trying to do it. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, my presentation is going to be a little bit about Ikerlan also because many of you know Ikerlan, but some of you not. So this is why I'm going to do a very short presentation about this Ikerlan and explaining what we are doing, why for us is very important this relationship with ABE and Nashin and the opportunities that we will have also as Ikerlan, no? So the agenda is a little bit about what is Ikerlan. So something that for me is also very important, how we started with ABE and concretely with Nashin years ago, and how we were able to create this I don't know how to say, no, truthful atmosphere, no. So in the end, we are collaborating in other type of projects during the last year. So these opportunities gave us the chances to exchange students, exchange researchers to be able to create added value together, no? And also the last point from now on, why for us is important also this agreement. So about what is Ikerlan? Ikerlan, we are a technological center. So in the end, our main business model is to develop, to be able to transfer technology to the companies, no? And in this way, those companies can be more competitive in the way that they understand this competitiveness, no? So this is our main goal as RGTO. So and inside of this technological center, so for us, Ikerlan, we have some differences in 4 different aspects for us, no? So for us, it's very important that in terms of technology transfer, many of our income came from the industrial project. So for us, this is very important because this permits us to sell all the research line that we have, no? All the knowledge that we are able to create, we have to be able to sell to the companies, no? We have to have this market, and if something doesn't have this market, we have to change this research line. The other aspect, and I think as Nashin mentioned, that also is other value that we have is that we are able to create this multi-technological project, no? So in this, as you know, so the projects every year the projects are more difficult, with different technological approaches. So in the end, to be able to create this multi-technological project are very important. Our research, so for us, is very important as innovation. So in the end, is the energy that gives you the possibility to create this value that they are going to be able for the companies in 2-3 years. So we have, for us, are very important this project. And the last thing is also for that important the talent. No, in Ikerland nowadays we have 40 PhD students, and for us this is very important. It's a unique number for research center that is not a university, because we are not a university, and we have 40 research PhD students. So this gave us the opportunity to develop our own people, no, for the future. And also the people that cannot be in Ikerland, so then when they finish their PhD, they can move to our companies, not to our clients. So in the end, the clients also will have people that they are well prepared for this technology, for the different technologies. So those are for us the four main points. So we are a cooperative. We belong to the Mondragon group. We were created in '74, so we belong to this Basque big group, and we are different sections. One the division is the industry. So from the beginning, we were created to be able to create this added value to the company. And also from the last year, we are members of the Basque Research Technology Alliance, BRTA we call it. No, so this is also important from the point of view the collaboration with the other research center. And we are around, more or less, we are nowadays 350 people. So our income is more or less 24 million. But as I said before, for us, the main goal is how to be able, so the income comes mostly from the industrial project. This is our main goal. Besides that, of course, in our research lines, thanks to the European project, the Basque government project, or the Spanish government project as well, we have our research project that give us the opportunity to be prepared for the future. No? And also something that we are very proud is, so we have a lot, with many of companies, we have a long collaboration, because for us it's very important to be close to the companies, to give these added value solutions, so and keep us this relationship. Hopefully, certainly with nashin, we can say that in the next meeting 20 years from now, we can say that with the same thing with ABE. So and in the test that we are in the technological part, that was in both part we are expert. We have in Ikerland 3 different research lines. One is the Ikerland Energy, we call it, where is the mainly part where we collaborate with ABE, where we have all the different activities regarding the electrical storage, and also the energy management. No? So how to introduce this electrical storage of these batteries in the different applications, in the mobility, or with renewables, or other type of different application. And also sometimes that also we work together is around the power electronics, because in the end, for the electromobility or for renewable energy, it's very important to have all these batteries and the power converters of the power electronic technologies. Something that other research line that we have is the Ikerland Connect. Is here we work in all the different parts of the digitalization. As you know, the digitalization is here. It's going to be here for the future. So it's established here already. And often the energy should be connected also with digitalization. So in the end, the final solutions for the energy sector in different aspects. So it's a key point to be together between the Ikerland energy technologies and the digitalization. Sorry. And also the last research line that we call it is the Ikerland MEC. Here we have all the different aspects of mechanical technologies, or the monetization, or the different type of technology. You know? So in the end, we are able to work on all these 3 type of technologies. So when we started with nashin, we started with nashin in 2012, and so we know each other quite well, and we started in different European projects. So in those 3 projects, that Batteries 2020, Ghost, or Safely Move, all of them related to the batteries and the electromobility, we work together developing technology. We share students, we share researchers, so we were able to publish together. So, and in the end, we create this collaboration. No? And this year, today, even we don't have a logo. We were able to get another 3 projects, Sensibat, regarding also the algorithms, the control, how to manage or how to correlate between the algorithms and the artificial intelligence. So something that also, as I explained before, is going to be a key issue for the future, this combination between digitalization and the energy sector. The Liberty, also a battery pack for electromobility. That's also something very important for us. And the CBAT project, also how to introduce this electromobility in the marine sector. As Nashin explained before, that this is going to be another hot topic in the close future. No? So, and from here, we were able to work together. And one point, we saw common interest. We trust each other. That is something that is very important. So we know each other, we trust each other. So the idea is how we are going to move forward. No? We're going to move forward from to the other type of project, no? For this kind of industrial, not only research areas, also to be able to move to this transfer technology project to the companies. No? As I explained before, for us it's very important this transfer technology project. So the idea is to move in the direction. So for us, it's going to be very important because strength of strategic relationship with ABE for us is very strategic relationship, and the idea is with this one to consolidate the relationship. As I just said, the idea is to move forward from research and innovation project to be able to impact in the competitive on the companies, and in this case, ABE and the relationship that could have ABE. And also the last point that even we are consolidating the Basque Country and in Spain. So there are new markets, the market as is becoming global. So the idea is to go with ABE in this other new geographic market. No? So this relationship will give us those opportunities. So this is mostly my presentation. Why for Ireland is important regarding the technological transfer. So how we have been able to create this atmosphere, the collaboration atmosphere between ABE and Ireland, and now the idea is to move forward for those new opportunities.
Mr. Villarreal, I think like any relationship, you have to start little by little, and then you build a real partnership that can bring some added value, right? I want to address again our audience. I'm sure that there is a lot of policymakers and business people who are watching this webinar today. Please ask the questions you want to ask to our panelists. They're more than willing to answer them. And if you're wondering, how did they start this partnership? Or how can I do the same? Or you want to hear, how do you change the mobility in a city such as Brussels, which is a little bit wild and big, right? As a Brussels citizen, I can tell you. Please let us know. We want to bring you in the debate. But in the meantime, I have many questions. I'm going to start. I was wondering, and this is something that can have a different answer from all of you. We have the European Commission putting forward a European Green Deal, which is meant to bring a lot of opportunities, especially with the decarbonization. And we have a green objective within the recovery plan. So I was wondering, from the perspective of the business, how do you see this as an opportunity? How do you see that you can benefit from it? Especially when we see that one of the objectives is actually going into more electrification, and their batteries is absolutely key. And from the perspective of policymakers, how can you benefit from it to try to bring it into your own strategy? Maybe you can start from the policymaker perspective, and then we'll move into the business.
Thank you. We see the different plans absolutely as opportunities to boost some choices that had been made. In frame of this discussion, I think it can be interesting for the audience to emphasize that we see the European choices to help us to boost the choices we make regarding to mobility as a service. As I told you, we are working on a legal frame, but we want to have everything concerning the right technology to welcome all these operators, to have to provide them the best work environment possible. That needs some investments, and for sure, this European help can boost the choices we have made in this regard.
Maybe from the business perspective.
From my point of view, such type of programs are very essential. In the past, maybe it was more focused on research as such, but we see there is some dedicated change towards going higher in TRL level, in demonstration, in implementation, supporting also financially to stakeholders like cities and so on to do that. Because we know such type of technologies are very expensive. You would not afford yourself to implement that directly without having some trust in the technology itself. So that is something good. However, I still, from my perspective, I still see a big gap, and a big gap can be covered quite easily through collaboration. Again, there are good examples from China, from Japan, Korea, US, where they already did such type of things already. So why we to reinvent the wheel again if it's already existing? So collaboration with such continents are very important to learn from their experiences as much as possible, and not to look at just as an European program as such, because finally we are working in an intermodal and environment where we can exchange experiences, exchange technology, exchange views in that regard to accelerate the penetration of the technology in our cities in one or another way, but also at European level as well. I think Spain is doing many things that maybe we don't do, or maybe Belgium is doing many things that other countries are not doing. So at that level, cooperation is still many possible, and that can happen if we are involving all the stakeholders, which are very important.
Maybe a quick follow-up before I move into Mr. Villarreal. How do you see the role of the Alliance for Batteries in this particular case?
I think the European Battery Alliance was an important step to, let's say, to bring Europe in more competitive a field, which is the battery business, which we missed 20 years ago. And it started with this one. 20 years ago, we were not interested in such type of stuffs. In Asians, they did. They created competences. They created a value chain, and that's why they become very powerful. Because right now, 70, 80% of the battery business production is still in Asia, China, Korea, Japan, etc. So the European Battery Alliance, with through the initiative of Šefčovič, was very important to accelerate that, at least to shorten or to make the gap much more smaller. And that's the effect is quite very visible right now. The numbers that of battery factories that are popping up in Europe, east of Europe or west of Europe, are becoming very high. And that's going to have definitely a very specific impact. But again, firstly, technology is there. We need legal frameworks and also clear political views in order to push in the right direction.
I'm going to definitely touch upon the question of the legal framework a little bit later, but I would like to hear from Mr. Villarreal on this particular point. How do you see the role of the European Green Deal and the question of the European Battery Alliance?
Yes, well, regarding the new Green Deal, as Nashin said, so this is going to be a very important step in the terms of a higher TRL level implementation. So this higher TRL implementation gave us like a research center two opportunities, no? One is to collaborate much closer to the companies, to the implementation, to the real implementation of the technology that we develop. And the second thing, is that doing this work or this job is going to be able to identify which are the problems for the implementation and to create a new needs to develop technology on those implementation. No? I mean, sometimes for research centers, we develop technology in our labs, in our facilities, and then the idea is to go to the real world, no? In this gap between our facility and the real world. So there are also technological needs that is necessary to collaborate between the companies and the research centers. And regarding the second question, I agree with Nashin. So in the end, the Battery Alliance is a very important step. Europe is competing with Asia, with other parts of the world. So in the end, it's necessary to have this collaboration with the different agents, with the different stakeholders in Europe to be able to create this technology that is a key element for the future. No? Well, nowadays as well, and the future as well. No?
Thank you so much. We're going to give the floor to a third speaker who is actually joining us from her home as well. I'm going to give the floor to Marina Martinez. She is a program officer on Horizon 2020 at the Spanish Office for Science and Technology. Please, Marina, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me correctly? I think yes. Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity. In fact, I have prepared a few slides which are quite related with the topic of today, which is the sustainable mobility and the batteries initiatives at European level that we have right now. If I would like to share my screen if it's possible. So I'm going to share my screen. So in this way, it's a very short presentation. I know the time is ticking. So as I have seen, there is a number of Spanish participants that show that they will be eager, Spanish and other nationalities and Belgian colleagues, which are eager to participate in the next opportunities for research and above innovation in the field of mobility and especially in the batteries. Well, I'm working in the Spanish Office for Science and Technology, and most of you already know us. We are the part of the innovation agency here in Brussels, and we are devoted basically to the framework program. So our business is that mainly, but not only. Also, we are focusing the number of initiatives which are running parallel way of a framework program, and maybe that they are much more involving the part of let's say implementation and higher development. So basically, opportunities for mobility, we can find them, and opportunities for batteries, we can find them in the part of Horizon Europe, which is the next framework program that is going to start next 2021. We expect that calls will open around April. Let's see, it depends a lot on the potential approval of the budget of the European Union and on the next generation EU budget as well. But in the meanwhile, the technical people like us, we are working in the contents of these future calls and future lines that will support the research and innovation in mobility and in batteries as well. So we have opportunity in the much more applied research in the clusters of Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe, but also we have already, let's say, heritage initiatives in the European Institute of Technology in Pillar number 3 and in the missions, which are a parallel initiative to the clusters of mobility as well. So we see that there is a cluster number 4, which is dealing with mobility. The structure of this cluster is in different chapters. So these chapters are named destinations. Destinations in this cluster are 6, which some of them are related directly with the industry of manufacturing of batteries in cluster 2, which is the cross-sectorial solutions for climate transition. Here you will see that the Commission will fund the piloting of lines of manufacturing batteries in a more, let's say, circular, sustainable, and respectful with the environment, but also with the raw materials and the secondary materials that we are using for this manufacturing of the batteries. Also in chapter number 4, in destination 4, we have also combination of electrification with other, let's say, sources of renewable energy like biofuels. And in destination 5, in chapter number 5, we have the application of this electrification and solutions of batteries as well in all the transport modes. All our previous speakers, they have speak about, for instance, the application of these batteries, of these innovative solutions and sustainable solutions of batteries in the waterborne sector, for instance, but there are other sectors can be benefit from this. And the last chapter of this cluster on including mobility is the safe, resilient, transform and smart mobility service for passengers and goods, where we can find solutions on, for instance, mobility and batteries for autonomous vehicle and platforms. Here we can find, for instance, support for demonstrators at urban scale. It could be very interesting. What will be the main impacts, let's say, of these, research actions that we are looking at the European level? So first could be the ones that are in red, to support a sustainable transition of the energy and transport sectors, because we are looking for innovative solutions, but among all, solutions that will be sustainable and that will be respectful with the environment. That is number 25 of the objectives of the European Union asking to the framework program, is to achieve or to work to a climate neutral and environmental friendly mobility in all the transport modes. So it is important to point that the developments that Ikerland with our colleagues from Belgium are developing, it's not only for surface transport, but can be applied to other transport modes, which is very important as well. This will contribute to the last objective, last impact, which is to achieve a safe, seamless, smart, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable mobility systems, especially in cities. And in this way, the representative of Brussels city has shown that this is one of the big implementations that Brussels is trying to achieve. Thinking in a user-centric technologies, taking into account the citizen, let's say, the focus of the development of solutions and technologies as well. So for the next framework program, we have the reorganization of European partnerships. Partnerships means all the combination of European money with other sorts of money for funding research and innovation in the framework program. So in the field of mobility, we have several actions, several partnerships that we will see in the next 2021. One of them is just the one on batteries, which is a co-program partnership. So it means that all the funds are coming from the European Commission, and the lines for funding, the topics, the calls, you will find it in the work program of cluster number 5. Let's see what the partnership batteries means. As our partners from Spain, Ikerland, and the ones in Belgium, they have been already involved in this, in the precursor of this partnership, but there is a number of European associations with, let's say, that they are based here in Brussels, that are contributing to the, let's say, configuration and the modeling of this partnership, of these calls that you will see onwards 2001 reflected in the different calls of a framework program. So you have a MIRI that has already commented by our partner in Belgium, but also the platform research for the cells and battery industry, the UCAR, which are the car manufacturers, the EC, which is the Association on Storage Application Market, and the European Research Community, where Ikerland is participating as well. Of course, this partnership responds, as our previous speakers has commented, so to this need, because there is a high demand on this sort of batteries and on this sort of technologies. And unfortunately, as has been already commented, the main part of the manufacturing is outside Europe, and also the know-how, processes, skills, and supply chain. So this has to be solved. Previously, we have a European project of common European interest on batteries as well, where Belgium is participating, Finland, Greece, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Sweden. There will be another one, which is, let's say, in the kitchen. For the next year, we will see. And I would like to highlight that Ikerlan is already here participating in the previous, let's say, initiative preparing this battery partnership onwards last year already. So there are some general objectives which are much more related with policy. There are some specific objectives related with what are the sort of technological developments and let's see the lines of research that are going to be funded. Here we have the detail. And we have some technological objectives which are expected to be reached in 2030, which are very specifically technology performance of the batteries of the future. Who can participate? So already our two partners, our two guests today from Spain and from Belgium, they are already participating in this association. And simply what I would like to encourage is to the public audience and also to more researchers, more companies and more technology centers to participate in this initiative, in this association, because it will drive the research and innovation in Europe for the next years. So with that, I would like to highlight that there are other initiatives in mobility that will see the light, like the mission on 100 climate neutral city by 2030, which I think that the city of Brussels will be really interested on that. And there is the European Institute of Technology, which is trying to combine or to connect better the research, the business, and the higher education. And they have a knowledge innovation community on energy, which is, and also on the urban mobility. The one on energy is focused also in the battery sector. And there are several, and I wanted to highlight this because also from Spain, there is an active participation in this network, in this knowledge innovation community with the Spanish node, which is based also in the north of Spain as well. And with that, I would like to finish my intervention because I see that it's time. And of course, all my success and I wish you all a good participation in the next initiatives in the framework program next year.
Brilliant, Madam Martinez. I think your presentation clearly highlights all the opportunities that companies have in the framework of the Horizon 2020 initiative and all the other European initiatives that are meant to boost innovation, research, development, and the collaboration between companies. So I'm very sure that everyone that is watching today, the webinar will be happy to hear about. And because it's all about synergies between institutions and companies and so on and so forth, I'm going to actually give the floor to Mr. Van Hut, who wants to ask a question to our panelists today.
Yes, I was pretty touched by what you explained about the dark side of the batteries, and maybe other people in watching this webinar have the same reaction, and there is a dark side that we maybe don't want to see or are not aware of. And I was wondering what can an association like yours do, and is there anything to raise awareness about this issue?
I mean, Europe is taking some measures to improve that. Not only Europe, but also European companies as such, which are active in this field in order to improve the situation in that regard, and particularly for some countries like Congo, where still it's problematic. And I think there is some alignment between many companies, and I see a lot of suppliers and car manufacturers, they agreed there should be more respect to human rights, but also the things that not children should be working such type of mines. At least the source where the materials are coming should to be done in human way. So there is specific things that we have to be aware. However, we should to be, if we go deeper, the problem even is much bigger than we think. All the batteries that we are now importing these days from China are actually not green batteries as we think. They are made by electricity mix, which is mainly coming from old coal plants, where the CO2 emission is extremely very high for every kilowatt hour battery production. So, which means in order to make Europe much more competitive in this field, we should to actually turn completely the game, and we have to come up with our green battery technologies. And that's actually what Commission is also looking to that. We push very hard to get that there, and it seems it will be there. We need green batteries. Green, environmental friendly e-mobility needs also green batteries, and it goes hands in hands. And I think there is a target of 30 grams CO2 emissions per kilowatt hour. That's set as a target. And if we do that, we will make Europe very competitive, because we know that China cannot compete with that values. And then we will here create also a value chain. We see that's also what happened with Northvolt in Sweden. They said, yes, we can make it because we can take all the electricity from the renewables. They made it. But even here in Belgium, I believe there are possibilities to become battery manufacturers. And maybe the coming months, there will be some surprises.
Now that you mentioned that, we've been talking a lot about the question of batteries as a necessary tool if we want to move into a more renewable energy strategy, especially if we want to go into more electrification, which is one of the goals of the European Union. Now that you're mentioning the competition with other countries, we have been hearing for weeks now about the strategic autonomy of the EU and how much we need that. When it comes to energy, it's exactly the same case. So I was wondering, what do you think the European Union should do in investing in private companies, investing in research and innovation, whatever you think it's necessary, so that Europe can actually become a strategic autonomy when it comes to energy as well, particularly in the question of batteries?
From my experiences in the past, I have been from a long time ago in the academia, and I know this field as well, but also I'm in the meantime in the industry. Technologically, Europe is very powerful. Let's be very clear. Many of the technologies that have been implemented in Asia, China, Korea, Japan, they are even coming from Europe, from European players, European suppliers, and so on. What we need is now not just to be focused on the level of research, but actually to go a step further in the implementation. Because where we missed 20 years ago the train, we missed because we were so focused on the research, and we didn't build the infrastructure, which Asia did. And that's where actually we missed a train. So here, research goes hands in hands with the deployment of the right infrastructure. Infrastructure, that means factories, infrastructure, pilot lines. Just for your information, I was so surprised a couple of months ago, in Europe, only at our universities and research centers, there are 100 batteries pilot lines. No one is aware of them, or they are not interconnected. So that's what actually I meant. We have to collaborate more in an open way together to make that possible, and not to duplicate too much things, and to create this platform of infrastructure, which is very important in manufacturing, in upscaling, and validation of the technology.
Something that you were mentioning before, that it happens in other countries, but it's definitely not happening in Europe. I'm going to move back to Mr. Villarreal, because we're forgetting you that you were there on the other side of the screen. One of the other questions that I have for the both of you is that the European Commission is planning on updating its legislation on batteries, both looking at the production, but also at the recycling process. And I was wondering, what do you expect from this legislation, and what challenges do you think that it can bring to the sector?
Well, all the legislation, I think, always is welcome, no? Because in the end, this legislation gives us the opportunity to move forward, as Johnson explained before. So if we develop some kind of legislation regarding, for example, the battery production to be also green, the battery production, so give us the opportunity to be more competitive, no? Apart from that, from the point of view of recycling, I am not expert in terms of recycling. We are working more focused in the second life, no? So in the second life of how to reuse these type of batteries in other type of application. And here also the legislation is going to be very, very, very important, no? In terms of how you can create these safety issues or legislation or what kind of standards should be accomplished by these second life batteries, because the first life is coming. So the first life we are every day there are more electrical vehicles in the street. So and in a few years it's going to be a huge problem, but also like a huge problem is going to be a huge opportunity for this new application of these new second life applications. And here the legislation is going to play a key role. And here, of course, directly is related to the recycling of the batteries. No, if you don't allow to go to recycle the batteries until the end of life is a real end of life, I will say. So you are moving or you are pushing the market to this second life application.
Thanks so much. It's definitely, you need to have a clear framework to know how is it going to work and how you can adapt your technology to make sure that you actually meet these standards. Maybe a reaction on what do you expect from this update of the EU legislation on batteries?
Just to give an example where the bottleneck is and legislations where and authorities can play an important role. If we look to this market, 8% of this market just can be collected. So still a lot of cell phones where batteries are included, it disappears somewhere else. In the living rooms, or maybe in the bedrooms, or somewhere else. But that's huge amount. So if we can create such mechanisms to promote or to bring that back in the circular economy way, that will also be a supporting role. So that is one, actually, I meant with legislation in that regard. However, when we speak in general terms about e-mobility, we should also to learn from our previous mistakes. For Europe, it's not only batteries which is important. We have also another types of technology which are key for our economy and our cities, that are hydrogen, fuel cells. We have to create the right platforms, infrastructure as well to be competitive in such markets as well. We see in China, Japan, in Korea, in US, even huge development ongoing in infrastructures. But actually what we see here in Europe is quite pretty poor in that regard. So we should to be prepared for the next steps because the technological improvement is going very fast. And that's also what we see in many programs. When they are launched, they are very competitive. But when they start effective implementation, they are not up to date anymore compared to what is already on the market. So we have to be aware what is coming, how the technology is, and to be at least looking ahead 10 years in order not to face the same problems as we were facing in the past.
Use the train again.
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask you a question that I was having in mind when you were explaining that sometimes the launching of the project is marvelous, but then when it comes to the implementation, is in Europe, and this is something that maybe you're going to want to answer as well, administrative burden an issue for the business development? And I'm sure that everyone who is watching on the other side of on the laptop is thinking the same if he's working as a businessman. So please, maybe, or you want to start?
I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Is administrative burden an issue for business development in Europe?
Yes, it is. The administrative workload is extremely high, and I think that is also making many companies afraid to enter in the European research programs. offering everything, the drafting, reporting, and so on. It's too much. I think there is a lot of simplifications possible. And I know even from my experiences in Saudi Arabia, maybe in the country, maybe it's not so, and on the same level as Europe, but the process is much, much more simplified. You have one or two easy reportings, and that's all. So they look to the outcome and not actually what is written on papers. So because just a side and aspect. So yes, it is. And I think what we heard that Commission is working on that to simplify that. How simplified it will be, I don't know. We have to see that.
I wanted to ask you because yesterday I read that Western Europe has attained the symbolic number of 1 million electric and hybrid cars, which is a lot. And I was wondering, on the side of planning clean mobility, is that a challenge? When you want to reduce the number of cars, can you evaluate the same way those cars are actually way more polluting and those who are part of that clean mobility strategy? How do you put that into your strategy?
So when it comes to the Good Move plan, which is the mobility plan of the Brussels region, there are some different types of measures that we can take. We want to reduce the number of cars, and we want to have the cars who are still there, we want them cleaner. So it's basically, we work on the numbers by offering other types of transportation. And when it comes to clean cars, we have the low emission zone, which it comes at the end to a diesel ban. We want also to electrificate much more the automotive park that it is now. So these are the two directions that we are taking. Less cars, and the cars that are there, better cars.
Thank you so much. Maybe from Mr. Villarreal, how do you see this? Do you think it's a challenge, the fact that we have seen an increase very strong in the past few years in terms of the use of electric and hybrid cars? And is the industry prepared to provide the batteries that are needed to match the demand?
First of all, if you look to the market, the electrification in Europe or worldwide is still around 3%. 3% of the big 100%, it's still small. So the big electrification market still should be expected. So that's one thing. I think the COVID situation delayed that process, but that is something that we are going to face. Now, if we look what is available from the battery production, it is far enough to fulfill these needs. We need many more gigafactories as a scales at 50 gigawatt hour that should be produced. So that is to fulfill our needs. And that's what we see, that many factories are popping up. Northvolt, we see in Norway are some plants, a lot of east of Europe plants, many factories in Germany, and so on and so on. So the demand is there, but what I should say, the big challenge of the electrification still should to come. Now, just to complement of comment of Mr. Michael, we should not be focusing if it is battery electric or fuel electric, etc. We should to be focusing on decarbonization. That's the key. And how we tackle that, it's just a matter of the selection of the right solution. Is it battery? Is it fuel cell? Is it smarter mobility in general? That will be depending from city to city. I think if we take Vienna as an example, it's an excellent example how they improve the public transport in order to avoid traffic jams. So we should be more focusing, let's say, not repeating exactly examples or experience somewhere else, but doing that and implement that according to the strategy of decarbonization. That's the key. And it can be fuel cells, it can be battery electric, or it can be another type of technologies.
Absolutely. You were mentioning the need for local solutions. I was wondering, sometimes we have these European strategies and these even national strategies, but we miss the local perspective. You're working for a local government. How do you see this need to find synergies between all the different institutions to make sure that the strategies that we are applying in different places actually feed for those places?
The word synergy is crucial. We see Brussels is a very interconnected city. It's not that such a big city. So the first connection we have to make is with the other regions. And when you zoom out, you see the Belgium is pretty small. So you have to see the connection with other countries as well. It comes to energy supply. I'm not an expert of energy supply, but I think you put the finger on one of the weakest points of this electrification/decarbonization. Where does the electricity will come from? If we replace the current automotive park with electric cars, we have a big problem. So luckily, it's only 3% at this moment, but I don't want to be cynical. So Synergies is absolutely crucial. We have not all the technology. We the government, we in Belgium don't have. So we have to see who can help us to achieve these goals. And that is what I was explaining earlier. Today is this, we want to be a very welcoming platform, welcoming city and region for tech enterprises to try to be here, to have a good and stable and reliable environment to do their job, to do their business.
Thank you so much. I wanted to go back to Ms. Okay, yeah, I have a reaction from Marina. Maybe you want to jump in. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to react on several in a couple of aspects that I think that has been to highlight. One is the question of the, let's say, to the speed of this, let's say, technological transfer, solution transfer from the research and innovation programs to the operational and on the field. This is really a challenge for many framework programs and research and innovation programs at the European Union. Is been a challenge. Let's see in the next framework program Horizon Europe if we can, let's say, handle this challenge. We have started experiencing, and I think that the colleagues from Mickerland as well experiences different, let's say, funding schemes like the lump sum, where is not such where the idea is like to avoid such a lot of administrative burden and work much more like a tender, where if you deliver the activities and the results that you are expected to deliver, you don't have to justify anything else. So you are paid by activities when the activity is okay and the deliverable is okay, when you have reached your objectives, and that's all. Let's see if this pilot instrument or scheme for funding that has been put in place last year, the 2 last years of the framework program, and that will be implemented as well in the next framework program, gives results, and it results at the end a real, let's say, speed of this transition and of this facilitating participation of the companies. And then there is another tools for funding, the part which is not the research, which is the part of commercialization, implementation, which are the funding instruments. Let's see, it's another challenge that for many framework programs in Europe, we are trying that make the people participate in much more easy way. Now we are going to put in place the InvestEU program, where basically are funding instruments. And let's see if these instruments can help to make it for real this implementation, these investments that are needed for putting in the real life, in the real time, these solutions of mobility. And of course, at level of synergies is not only synergies at level of connection with other entities, but also the need of synergies among the different sources of funding at the European level. So I can understand that, for instance, from the region of Brussels, there will be a synergy in the implementation with structural funds, but it's necessary also from the research to find much more connection and synergies with the other big source of fundings at European level, which are funding this development at the industrial level. And in the next years, it's going to be a challenge as well for demonstrating that this is possible and this can be done at European level.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. Because we're coming to the end of the webinar, I'm going to be asking all of our panelists to have a final word. And I'd like to start with Mr. Villarreal. I want you to tell the audience, because this is all we've been here today for, why it's so important for companies to join forces, to create synergies, to make sure that they boost innovation, that they come up with innovative projects, and that they work together to achieve better results.
So, well, the answer is easy, no? Because in the end, the technology is every time is more complicated. The difficult part is how to make this one useful, no? But because in the end, as I said, the projects are every year the projects are more difficult. So there are new technologies that are coming. The speed of the technology also is very important. So something that we had in previous years, some time to develop technology. Nowadays, the competitiveness regarding the things to the competitiveness around the world. So you have less time to develop different products, different technology. So we are in a transition, in an early transition. So also there are new business models, new technologies, new opportunities, so there are, everything is new, I would say, no, and also the speed of the different solutions. So in the end, to tackle all these problems and to be able to answer to all these opportunities is necessary the relationship. Is necessary the relationship between the research centers, because it's necessary. And also at the same time, it's necessary the relationship between the research center and the company, no? Because in the end, it's the company that is going to implement all those solutions. So in the end, or we collaborate or we are not going to have future. So in terms of a little bit black or white, no?
Thank you very much. That very message, we need to collaborate to actually achieve results. Maybe a word from Mr. Omar on this.
The market demand is high. The customers has high expectations, clearly. And what could happen in the past, doing everything by the same company, these days is becoming a little unpractical from different reasons. So collaboration, joining the forces and so on is the optimal solution to overcome this hurdle. And that's actually what we also see through partnershiping in different countries and different technologies, like with Ikelan in Spain, but also with Imekar in Turkey, but also with EB Middle East and even in Saudi Arabia. And it's continuing like that. We will never do the same thing by us alone. We will do that in partnership to speed the process as much as possible. Otherwise, we will be out of the game.
Together we go farther away. That's a great message, considering we're talking from the European Union. And a last word, maybe, on how do we achieve that wow on the transport sustainability wall from the policymaking perspective and the public authorities for all those who are watching today?
There is no magical recipe, but what I can say that we are working on several levels. And I think for the audience today, it's important to get that mobility as a service is a market, and there is a market. There is a huge demand. You're so right. At this moment, I think the people who use the modal split of mobility as a service is about 3-4%. It's a niche. We would really like to expand the niche to make it mainstream. That means that there is a huge demand for new solutions. There is certainly a demand for good batteries, made in Europe, green. I'm sure you can be in contact with the manufacturer of e-steps, of e-bikes. There is a huge market booming, absolutely booming. And I'm sure customers are more and more keen they want to know more about the batteries. We talked about the dark side, but if we can make it green side, a European side, I'm sure there is something to do there. So my message would be, there is a market. Our role is to help you to make the best out of it.
Thank you very much. I had a lot of positive messages to put an end to this webinar, which is very welcome. I want to thank you all for being here today, for joining us, and for being part of this conversation. If you're a Belgian company who would like to contribute, if you would like to collaborate with a Spanish company, or if you are a Spanish company who would like to collaborate with a Belgian company, make sure that you contact the Spanish Embassy in Belgium and the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Belgium and Luxembourg. They can help you do that. Thank you again for our panelists today. Thank you so much for this very interesting discussion. Thank you for joining us today. Again, this is all from us, and have a lovely day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.